Reporting things online is more than a common practice in today's world, which means there's no shortage of commercial vehicles on the road. Unfortunately, they too aren't exempt from motor vehicle crashes. And what does that mean for you or a loved one if the unfortunate circumstance it happens to you? Grand Rapids car accident lawyer Tom Sinas from Sinas and Dramus Law, our sponsor, is here to help educate us on that very topic. Tom, first and foremost, thanks for being with us on 8West today.
Thank you for having me back.
So let's talk about commercial vehicle crashes and how they differ when it comes to the law with just regular motor vehicle crashes.
Great question, because it's easy to think, oh, this is just a car crash with bigger vehicles involved. But that's not the correct way to think about it, because commercial motor vehicle crashes differ from a traditional car crash probably in two key respects. A number of respects, but maybe two of the most important are the rules are different and the players involved are different. So to illustrate the point, we're not going to go through this, but this gives you an idea of how the rules are different.
I mean, that's a massive...
Yeah, and what is this? This is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. In other words, these are the federal rules that apply to commercial motor carriers. Think, for example, semi-trucks. And we have adopted these rules in the state of Michigan also. So when you're dealing with a commercial vehicle, oftentimes you're dealing with an entirely different set of rules than you would in a traditional car crash. Secondly, you have a different group of players involved. You know, your traditional car crash, you think one person crashes into another. Maybe there's a claim by the person who was hit against the person who ran the red light, for example. And that oftentimes is the end of it. In commercial crashes, you have a whole host of different people involved, different theories of liability, different insurance. So it's different. That's the takeaway. Don't think of it as the same.
Okay, you mentioned liability.
Yeah.
How is liability different in a regular motor vehicle crash versus a crash if you're involved with a commercial vehicle?
Great question. Your regular crash, again, you would think of it as if you and I were in a crash, I may have a claim against you, you may have a claim against me, and that may, of course, be the end of it. In a commercial motor vehicle crash, we have a concept that the law refers to as vicarious liability, which is kind of a clunky phrase, but it means someone else is liable for the actions of someone else under some other theory. Most common example here would be an employee-employer. If an employee is working on behalf of an employer and the employee causes a crash, for example, most often the employer is vicariously liable for the acts of the employee. So you can imagine in commercial motor vehicle crashes, the question of, was the driver working? Yes, but who? For who was the driver working? Sometimes it's obvious, but oftentimes it's not. Oftentimes the driver might be working for a motor carrier that is a separate entity from the logo on the truck. So that creates a whole set of complications there. There is a vicarious liability concept that applies to owner liability. In Michigan, we have if the owner of a motor vehicle allows someone to drive it, then the owner is liable. Well, in commercial motor vehicle cases, determining who the owner of the vehicle is usually a different exercise or a more involved exercise than in a traditional car crash case. So, and then there are other theories of vicarious liability that can apply in a commercial case that don't often apply in your traditional car crash case. So because you have these different theories of liability, you have different potential defendants, which means you have different potential claims for insurance, different potential insurance carriers, and maybe in the end of the day, a different group of defense lawyers for each defendant.
Okay, so now my thought goes to timing. Well, if I'm involved in a crash that involves a commercial vehicle, how long should I wait before I contact your law firm?
There's no reason to wait. You should contact sooner than later. And this is generally good advice, even for a traditional car crash. There is no reason to wait. Like if people call our law firm, they can call and get a free consultation. So there's no reason not to use that if you have a question. But when you're involved in a commercial motor vehicle case, I think it's even more important, because there is oftentimes more evidence that needs to be ascertained in a commercial motor vehicle case, and oftentimes there's different technology. Of course, you know, these commercial motor vehicles are equipped with all sorts of different technology than you might find in a car. And so getting access to that evidence, preserving the evidence, reviewing the scene of the crash, doing all of this stuff right away is always better than waiting. It doesn't mean that if you wait, you can't pursue a claim, but if something serious happens to you involving a commercial motor vehicle, obviously the first and most important thing is to focus on your health, but the minute you've turned your attention to things like insurance and medical bills is also when you should be thinking, do I need to maybe at least speak with a lawyer about this to understand what my rights are so that I can make a good decision now as opposed to feeling like I waited too long?
And then obviously it's a very complicated topic, which is why it's so important to reach out to a law firm that has the expertise in this. What is the process of reaching out to you guys to talk to you about that consultation, if you just have a couple of questions?
We are here, right? We are here. We have an intake department in our law firm that when people call, they can speak to someone right away. Soon, the information will be transmitted to a lawyer within our firm who can review the information. And so no one should think, and this is all free of charge, so no one should think, well, I'm going to get charged, because you're not, or it's an inconvenience for the law firm, which it's not. That's what we're here for. And we review at our law firm many, many cases, sometimes many a day. And it's our job to give people an answer as soon as we can. Is this something we think we can help you with? Why or why not? So don't wait. Avail yourself of what's out there.
All right, Tom, thanks so much for stopping by eightWest today.
Thank you for having me.
And this segment is sponsored by Sinas and Dramus Law Firm. We'll be right back with more eightWest.